Let's wrap up some of the latest player movement, but also start looking to week one. I'm Joe Dolan, and this is the Fantasy Points Daily Lineup for Thursday, September 1st, 2022.
It's time for the FantasyPoints.com Daily Lineup. Staying on top of the latest news and updates around the NFL. Rise and shine, folks. We're taking the field. Here's your host, FantasyPoints.com's Joe Dolan.
Allow me to throw a disclaimer out there that you are absolutely going to see my dogs charge into this room within the next 10 minutes. Starting at quarterback today is the Cardinals' Kyler Murray, but how much help will he have? Cardinals coach Cliff Kingsbury told reporters on Wednesday that two key receivers for the club, tight end Zach Ertz and second-year wideout Rondale Moore, will, quote, be close when it comes to their availability in Week 1's clash with the Chiefs. This is per Tyler Drake of 98.7 Arizona Sports. Ertz is dealing with a calf injury, while the Cardinals have not disclosed what is bothering Moore. Now, Drake reports that Ertz has been dealing with the issue since August 4th. Per our Dr. Edwin Porras, by week 1, he'll be 5 weeks removed from the injury and will indeed be cutting it close, as the average return from a calf strain is 3 to 5 weeks. There is also an outside chance he's actually further out given his age. This is a situation to monitor, and regardless of availability, he'll be highly volatile for week 1. As for Moore, it's hard to get a grasp of his recovery timeline, given we don't know what he's actually dealing with. If both Moore and Ertz are unavailable against Kansas City, that will be 3 of the Cardinals' top 4 receivers who can't play, with DeAndre Hopkins already suspended. It's shaping up for Hollywood Brown to get peppered with targets from his college quarterback Murray and to be a very popular Week 1 DFS play in a potential point frenzy. It'll also be an opportunity for us to get a look at rookie tight end Trey McBride, the first tight end drafted in April's draft. Starting at running back today is a guy back in Los Angeles, but with a new team. The Chargers signed veteran back Sony Michel, erstwhile of the Rams, on Wednesday, just 2 days after Michel was released by the Dolphins. They waived second-year back Larry Roundtree to make room. The Chargers clearly wanted someone to bolster that backfield behind Austin Eckler. So those who spent best ball picks on Michel aren't totally cooked yet. The Chargers were disappointed in rookie Isaiah Spiller this camp, while Joshua Kelly, I told you, by the way, while Joshua Kelly has been one of the least effective runners in the NFL in each of the last 2 seasons. Meanwhile, Michel has led 2 different Super Bowl champions in rushing in his first 4 NFL seasons, but is now on his 4th different team because knee issues have robbed him of some explosiveness. But he's still a capable grinder, which is what the Chargers need and have been looking for multiple years now. Chargers general manager Tom Telesco told reporters that he wanted to reduce Austin Eckler's workload in 2022 and then later drafted Spiller in round 4. The fact that they're signing Michel after drafting Spiller is more confirmation of this. And Eckler himself has said he's advocated for fewer touches in order to stay healthy, telling the People's Pregame podcast in March, "You can even go ask my management. Like, hey, make sure you limit my touches. Like, you got to make sure I can get through the entire season." Given the lackluster depth behind him, these concerns were hard to take too seriously, or at least they were, up until a few days ago when the Chargers signed Michel, who ranked 2nd in touches, 4th in yards from scrimmage, and 3rd in missed tackles forced over the last 6 weeks of the 2021 season while with the Rams. I'm still not very worried about Eckler, and I'm comfortable using a high first-round pick on him. But they truly do want someone to take the hard-earned yards here, and the best bet for now is that being Michel. At our other running back spot, we have someone with a serious uphill climb if he's ever going to be relevant. The 49ers released 2021 third-round pick Trey Sermon on Wednesday, just 1 day after he made their initial 53-man roster. One of the biggest busts we can remember at the running back position, Sermon was a third-round pick in 2021 who took up permanent residence in Kyle Shanahan's doghouse. He failed to beat out 2021 sixth-round pick Elijah Mitchell last year, and the writing was on the wall this year when the Niners spent another third-round pick to select Tyrion Davis-Price. Then, Sermon had just 39 yards on 19 preseason carries, while also bungling pass protection multiple times. Sermon looked slow, sluggish, and unaware whenever we watched him, which is an unholy trinity for running backs. He might catch on somewhere, but the guy we watched in San Francisco can't help anywhere. Meanwhile, the 49ers kept 4 running backs, including undrafted rookie Jordan Mason. Mitchell has been dealing with a hamstring injury all camp, but should be ready for week 1. The highest upside player behind Mitchell from a fantasy perspective is Davis Price, but the number 2 for now is old Kyle Shanahan favorite Jeff Wilson. If Mitchell were to miss time, and he did miss 6 games as a rookie, Wilson would be the best bet to get carries, at least early in the season. In our first wide receiver spot is someone on the move. The always wheeling and dealing Eagles traded third-year wideout Jalen Reagor to the Vikings on Wednesday in exchange for a 2023 7th-round pick and a 2024 conditional pick. The pick in 2024 is initially a 4th-rounder, but could de-escalate, I have never seen that before, by the way, into a 5th if Reagor doesn't meet certain statistical parameters, the context of which we do not yet know. Also, consider me skeptical that Reagor can hit any statistical parameters. Reagor was obviously a mistake-prone bust for the Eagles, who famously took Reagor over Justin Jefferson because of his perceived speed and ability to win deep. Now, Reagor is teammates with Jefferson, which we hope doesn't shatter his confidence further. Reagor had a tendency to be extremely online in his Eagles tenure. Bad idea. With the deal, Howie Roseman admitted perhaps the biggest mistake of his career, but also essentially recouped the picks he used to trade for Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, which we talked about on yesterday's program. In Minnesota, Reagor is expected to be a return man and their number 4 wide receiver at best. He remains off the fantasy radar and, in my mind, does not affect the fantasy value of KJ Osborne, let alone that of Jefferson or Adam Thielen. Now, in Philly, the Eagles have just 4 wideouts on their current 53-man roster: A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Zach Pascal, and Quez Watkins. The ultimate irony of the Reagor selection? The Eagles could have selected Jefferson, whom some thought was, quote, merely a big slot receiver based on his college tape, and still wound up with the speed they were looking for in the 6th round of the same draft. That's where they selected the blazing fast Watkins, who has averaged 15.1 yards per reception and over 11 yards average depth of target in 2 seasons. Watkins has 753 yards in those 2 seasons. 58 more than Reagor. At our other wide receiver spot, we have a wide receiver by committee. Packers coach Matt LaFleur told reporters on Wednesday that the, quote, ball's going to get spread around in their passing game, per Matt Schneidman of The Athletic. Here is LaFleur's full quote, which Schneidman quipped was a PSA to stay away from Packers receivers in fantasy. I don't think anybody's clear-cut in front of the other guy, LaFleur said. I think it's going to be very much the ball's going to get spread around, and we're going to try to feature different guys in different spots. Now, the thing about this quote is this. We in the fantasy community are absolutely treating it like gospel and have been for months. LaFleur didn't even need to say it. There's only one Packer receiver, Alan Lazard, even being drafted in the first 10 rounds of fantasy drafts. You'll often see both of their running backs, Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon, go off the board before any Packer wideout. Meanwhile, Aaron Rodgers himself is regularly available in the double-digit rounds of drafts, which is insane when you think about it, given he's the back-to-back reigning MVP. But a bet on Lazard, a bet on Romeo Doubs, hell, even a bet on Sammy Watkins or Randall Cobb is a pretty cheap way to get invested in an offense that still has a quarterback playing at the absolute pinnacle of the sport. I have no qualms with drafting any of Rodgers' weapons at cost. In our flex spot, we now have a guy who all of a sudden is healed up. Raiders tight end Darren Waller returned to practice on Wednesday from a hamstring injury that sidelined him for virtually the entirety of training camp and the preseason. Coincidentally, this comes on the same exact day that mega agent Drew Rosenhaus announced Waller as a new client. Waller wants to be paid elite money, and he's employed Rosenhaus to do that. Josina Anderson of CBS Sports tweeted earlier in the week that Waller was discussing a deal that would make him the highest paid tight end in the NFL, and it looks like this situation is coming to a head shortly. Now, given his disappointing year in 2021, his age, Waller turns 30 in 2 weeks, the fact that he missed all of training camp, and the fact that he still carried a relatively lofty ADP throughout much of the offseason, Waller was a full fade for me. But he's been slipping in drafts, often until the 7th round. And if he was merely making a business decision this camp to protect his earnings potential, he's got a good shot to pay off for those who stopped his draft day fall. I'm Joe Dolan, and this has been the Fantasy Points Daily Lineup. Remember to like this video, just by hitting that thumbs up down there, and subscribe to the Fantasy Points channel for the daily lineup and all our videos, which we are blowing out this season. And if you haven't had your fantasy draft yet, let us help. Go to fantasypoints.com for all of your fantasy draft needs with projections, cheat sheets, and articles updated constantly over the next week. And once the season starts, we'll help you make your roster as strong as it can be with our industry-leading articles, tools, and projections. What's more, just use code LINEUP22 for an extra 10% off any package. Good luck in your drafts tonight, and I'll see you tomorrow morning.